Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Paul Johnson with the Fairfax County Department of Transportation, and I want to welcome you to this meeting to discuss the 2025 repavement in Dranesville and Sully districts. Before we begin, I'd like to review some guidelines so that everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube, then linked to the project webpage. Microsoft Teams offered a live captioning service. You can find that by clicking the three dots at the top of your screen and choosing Turn on Live Captions. Once the presentation is completed, we will begin the question and answering portion, during which participants will ask their questions aloud. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting, so there will be no taking written questions. If you're on the phone, please hold your questions to the end. We will have instructions on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also encourage you to submit your comments to today's meeting using online survey, online feedback form, or a phone call. Again, we'll address this for you at the end of the presentation. Before I begin, I would like to introduce Supervisor Smith, Kim Ward, and also Brian Nolt, if I pronounced that right, please forgive me, from Sully District. And we also have Robert here from Dranesville District also. Supervisor Smith, did you want to say anything?
I just want to thank people for joining the meeting, and it's a great time for them to get information about what's happening with the restriping, and we'll find out about paving projects. So thank you very much.
Thank you for attending the meeting, Supervisor. And Pablo, did you want to say anything for Dranesville?
Just want to thank everyone for coming. Looking forward to hearing the details of the repaving.
Thank you so much for attending also. I'd like to also introduce those who are attending from Virginia Department of Transportation, VDOT. We have first Kim McCool, Assistant Transportation and Land Use Director for Northern Fairfax County. And we also have, who is going to be our first presenter tonight, we have Huda Ali, Assistant Transportation and Land Use Director for the Southern Fairfax County. Next, I would also like to introduce Hannah Kackner from FCDOT. She's a transportation planner too with the active transportation team there. And I'm going to pass it over to Hoda. She will be presenting the repayment program. And then after that, I'll be passing it over to Hannah, and she will go over the slides for the proposing restriping projects as a part of the 2025 repayment program. And this will include any crosswalks or bike lanes FCDOT is proposing to add through the 2025 repayment program. And with that, I'll pass it over to Hoda.
Thank you, RJ. Good evening, everyone. My name is Huda Ali, as been introduced earlier. I'll be walking you through the VDOT paving program, and I'm pulling up the presentation now. Do you all see this screen? Do you see it on your screen?
Yes, we can see it.
So tonight we'll be covering the topics of the state lane mile inventory and the lane mile inventory for Nova District, the planning and construction phases of the repaving program. We also go over the process of how roads get selected for paving and how the pavement condition is determined using the CCI rating system. Present information about our dashboard and the pavement condition targets, the various type of pavement treatments, this year's budget, and the different types of pavement markings and striping before we transition to the county's presentation on the topic. As you can see here, Nova District has over 14,000 lane miles. To put that in perspective, that is equivalent to going to the West Coast and back 2.5 times. The actual number is actually higher because this does not include mileage for ramps and many of the recently added roads. This slide shows the breakdown of lane miles for our district. As you can see, over half of the lane miles are in Fairfax County alone. The other half is almost 50-50 split between Loudoun and Prince William counties, and 2% in Arlington County, where VDOT only maintains interstate and primary roads, where the county maintains the secondary roads.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Huda. Prabha just let me know that she can only see the county slides and not your slides.
Yeah.
Is that
So
true for anyone else on the line? I'm seeing your slides, so that's.
I'm seeing the VDOT slides.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, must be my problem. Let me figure that out.
Yeah, I'm seeing the
Okay,
slides also.
let's-
The VDOT slides.
Sorry to interrupt, Huda. Just wanted to make
Oh,
sure
it's
everyone was
okay.
seeing the correct slides.
Of
Okay.
course, yeah. So the
Okay, sounds like
construction, right. So talking about the planning and construction phases, the construction aspect of paving is a seasonal process and takes place during the warmer weather month from spring to early fall. However, the planning for repaving is a year-round process. The process starts in spring, going into the summer with data collection for the next season. Over the summer into the fall, we start analyzing the data, determine how much need is out there compared to available funds, and prepare the schedules and coordinate with central office and other stakeholders. Then in winter, we close out previous contracts, put out new contracts for bids, award and execute the new contracts by February, March of each year. This is a question we get quite often. VDOT identifies which roadways are selected for paving using a rating system called Critical Condition Index, CCI, which ranges from 0, representing very poor condition, to 100 for excellent condition. The process is generally data-driven and based on several factors: pavement condition, CCI ratings, traffic volumes, avoiding locations in conflict with upcoming VDOT projects and locality projects, avoiding conflict where underground utility projects are planned, grouping projects for economies of scale. And what that means is we consider the entire neighborhood when we have a main street in that neighborhood selected for paving. This is to achieve efficiency in contractor mobilization. We also receive feedback from our maintenance crews who are most familiar with the roads in their districts. The planning process starts with collecting the data. We have contractors that drive the roads using high-tech vans, which can automatically analyze the detected pavement condition in terms of distress, texture, or roughness, using GPS, cameras, and scanners to measure things like crack size and distance between cracks, and others to determine the pavement condition. The frequency of data collection depends on the type of roadway. Data is collected annually for interstate, primaries, and high-volume secondaries with average annual daily traffic higher than 3,500 vehicles per day. For low-volume secondary roads below the 3,500 vehicles per day, and those with the route numbers of 600 or higher, and they make the majority of the lane mile, including residential streets. For those, we do 20% every year, with the goal to cover the full lane mile inventory every 5 years. Once the pavement condition data is collected and analyzed, it gets translated into a rating system on a scale from 0 being worst to 100 being best, like in the case of a new road. The rating system we use is called CCI and stands for Critical Condition Index. We focus on very poor and poor roads with sufficiency ratings below 60 CCI. We don't pave roads with ratings higher than 60 CCI. Pavement condition targets are decided based on the type of roads. The 2024 set targets are shown in green in the square at the bottom. For interstate high-volume primaries and high-volume secondaries, our goal is to have 82% of the network at a 60 CCI rating or above. For low-volume primary, we have a target of 75%. And for low-volume secondary roads, the target is 60. This data is also used to inform budget allocation decisions. On this slide, you see a screen capture of the VDOT pavement condition map. In general, there are two main types of treatments. Preventive maintenance treatment, where we try to extend the life of pavement by applying slurry seal. We also do limited patching and crack seal. Candidate roads for this type of treatments are typically not in poor condition and have CCI ratings of 60 or above. In regards to corrective maintenance, we do mill and overlay 2-inch most commonly, and up to 4-inch depending on the pavement condition. This treatment is the most common and targets roads in poor condition. In rare occasions, we may have to replace the pavement to full depth and rebuild the road. Roads targeted with this type of treatment are typically very old and built to old standards. Each year, our district receives a set amount of budget dollars. The emphasis for this year are, as you can see from the bottom row highlighted in red, this year's budget is lower than last year. There is shifts of funds towards primaries and secondaries, while still providing a healthy budget towards interstate compared to last year's, which correlates to the 2024 paving conditions. Also, note the change in budget and the downward trend in lane mile paved as a result, and the downtrend in cost per lane miles. So what that means is we're not able to pave as much as we did in prior years due to the lower budget this year. However, we're able to stretch our dollars a little bit just because of the lower cost per mile this year. I wanted to note that our infrastructure and maintenance teams have determined that about 43% of our low volume secondary roads have combined critical condition index ratings in the 30s and 40s, indicating very poor condition and are due for repaving. At current funding levels, we're only able to pave about 6% of the road network each year. Nova District continues to work diligently to catch up on paving roads across Northern Virginia. Until the roads are ultimately repaved, and maintenance team will continue to monitor and treat roads for emergencies and safety-related issues such as potholes and needed patching. We wanted to note these online resources that is available to the public where they can access and learn of if the roads are being paved this year, and they can also track progress. This year's paving plan is now available for public access. It shows the roads planned for repaving in red. As the repaving season progresses, you will start seeing different colors popping up on the screen. This is an interactive map where you can enter your street address in search function to find out if your street is being paved this year. If you click on the color line on the road, a box will pop up and you will be able to see project details and the direct contact information for the construction manager. His name, email, and phone number will be listed. He can be contacted directly to get additional information. VDOT restripe most commonly to replacing kind, as in put back what was existing before we mill and repave the road. We may occasionally restripe to improve a traffic condition, traffic operation, and safety condition. We also take the opportunity of repaving to collaborate with the county to implement new marking patterns, if existing pavement width allow, to enhance on-road bike routes, and to add new crosswalks where feasible to improve pedestrian safety. This last slide contains some helpful information on how to report a road problem. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the state program And I'll hand it back to Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, Huda. So good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Hannah Kackner, and I am an active transportation planner with Fairfax County Department of Transportation. So I'll be spending the next part of this meeting talking about FCDOT's role in the repaving program and also presenting our proposed striping improvements in Sully District. This year, we do not have any proposed striping projects in Dranesville District. So each year, VDOT and FCDOT collaborate on providing safety improvements for all roadway users as part of the annual repaving program. And that process starts with FCDOT reviewing VDOT's draft paving list and identifying any opportunities for improvements, which can include new crosswalk markings, bike lanes, and road diets. We sometimes propose other striping improvements, but those three that I just mentioned are definitely the most common. And from there, VDOT develops the striping plans and the signage plans for implementation right after the road is repaved. And FCDOT leads public engagement efforts. And once the striping is complete, we'll go ahead and install any bike lane and crosswalk signage. So as I mentioned, each year FCDOT proposes a number of different bike lane projects to be implemented through the repaving program. And a big reason that we do this is to repurpose underutilized roadway space. So many of the roads in Fairfax County were built with wider than necessary travel lanes or too many travel lanes than are really needed, which can lead to some safety issues like speeding and inattentive driving. And repaving really gives us an opportunity to right size those roadways by narrowing the travel lanes, and converting additional lanes into bike lanes and or center turn lanes at relatively little cost. This also helps us implement our planned bicycle network, again, at a pretty low cost, relatively speaking, because it is much less expensive to add new pavement markings when the roadway is being repaved. And this is an example of bike lanes that were added through the repaving program on Annandale Road a few years ago. And as you can see from this photo, you get a really nice traffic calming effect through adding those bike lanes. And with that additional striping, drivers are given a visual impression that the roadway width has been reduced, which has been shown to slow vehicle speeds overall. These are the three types of on-street bicycle facilities that you'll see in Fairfax County. We typically don't add sharrows at this point, and we try to add buffered bike lanes wherever possible to give cyclists some additional separation between themselves and the vehicle lane to provide a more comfortable experience for cyclists. And although this program only allows us to stripe bike lanes, adding that buffer gives us the option in the future to protect the bike lane by adding physical barriers, such as flex posts through other funding sources. And this diagram just shows a categorization of the 4 types of cyclists that we typically see in Fairfax County. And while we're not able to build trails or protected bike lanes through the repaving program, we are trying to provide as many buffered bike lanes as possible where space allows to try to appeal to that interested but concerned group that you see here. And this is just a diagram that shows a few of the benefits of adding bicycle infrastructure. So as you can see, bike lanes provide benefits to all roadway users and not just cyclists. So moving on to one of our planned striping projects for Sully District. This year, we will be implementing a road diet on Metro Tech Drive by adding a center turn lane and bike lanes from Centerville Road to Route 50. And those bike lanes will be buffered where there's enough roadway width to do so. And the bike lanes will end ahead of each of the signalized intersections at Route 50 down here and also at Centerville Road in order to reduce potential delays at those intersections. There's also currently a double left turn coming off of Route 50 onto Metro Tech, and that will remain in place. So the road diet will begin just past the Route 50 intersection following a lane merge, and then that's where the road diet will start. And so this project was originally presented to the public back in 2023. We collected feedback on the project back then, but the repaving of this road was deferred a couple of years. So that is why the road diet is just now getting implemented. These slides will be posted online tomorrow, so you can click on the links on this slide to view the presentation of this road diet from 2023. So one reason that we propose road diets is because of their potential to reduce crashes between vehicles, mainly due to adding that center turn lane. And the graphic to the right here just illustrates how adding a center turn lane can help reduce 3 types of crashes. But to summarize, rear end crashes are reduced because drivers have a safer space to wait for a gap to turn from that center turn lane. And the risk of angled crashes is also reduced because drivers really only need to turn across 1 lane instead of 2. And then finally, the risk of side swipe crashes is also reduced because in adding that center turn lane, you are eliminating the need to pass around stopped left turning drivers. And then an additional benefit of adding the center turn lane is that it just keeps traffic flowing because when you're removing left turning drivers from the travel lane, it's easier for traffic to just move more freely. And then just having fewer lanes can help discourage speeding between the lanes as well. So in terms of improvements for people who ride bikes, having the bike lanes here will delineate space for riders and reduce the level of traffic stress for people bicycling, which will ideally attract riders of varying ages and abilities. In other words, while I'm sure very few people are riding their bikes on Metro Tech right now, just given how dangerous it would feel to do so, the goal in providing these bike lanes is to make it so more people do feel safe enough to ride their bikes on Metro Tech. And then in terms of connections to these bike lanes, we have existing shared use asphalt paths on both Centerville Road and Route 50, as you can see in this aerial image here, marked in the lighter green color. And we are also proposing to add bike lanes along a short segment of Stonecroft Boulevard between Avion Parkway and Murdoch Street by converting the 2 outer travel lanes into buffered bike lanes. And the reason that this is such a short segment is just because of the paving limits on Stonecroft Boulevard this year. But we always have the option to extend them through future paving cycles when the opportunity presents itself. And this is an example of a roadway where we are primarily installing the bike lanes as a traffic calming mechanism to narrow the lanes and cut down on speeding. And so if implemented, the end result would look very similar to the configuration that we currently have on Centerville Farms Road that you can see in the aerial image to the right. And you will have the opportunity to weigh in on this project through a public input survey, and I'll have more information on that at the end of this presentation. We also typically propose crosswalk enhancements as part of the repaving program. However, this year we are unable to add any new marked crosswalks in Dranesville or Sully District. And the reason for that is just that current VDOT guidelines on adding marked crosswalks through the repaving program now require the existing curb ramps at that intersection to meet the current ADA standard. So based on the streets that were on this year's repaving list, we had very limited opportunities to add marked crosswalks just across the county as a whole, given this guidance. So that just wraps up my presentation for the evening. But before we move on to the Q&A portion of the meeting, I just wanted to make a couple of notes on community feedback. So if you have paving related comments, including drainage issues, missing signage, signal repair, walkway repair, and site distance issues related to vegetation overgrowth, those should be submitted to VDOT through the My VDOT portal, which is linked here. If you would like to request road repairs, please follow the I Need a Road Repaired link on the VDOT portal or call 1-800-4ROAD. And as I mentioned, because feedback was already collected back in 2023 on Metro Tech Drive, we will not be collecting additional feedback on that project. However, we do encourage you to submit feedback on the Stonecroft Boulevard proposal. And here is a link to our repaving webpage, which also has a link to the public feedback survey, proposed project scopes, tonight's presentation, and just additional information on the repaving program. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to the question and answer portion of tonight's meeting. And RP will give a few instructions on that.
Thank you, Hannah. Definitely want to thank both Hoda and Hannah for their presentations tonight. They were both great. We will now take questions and comments from our attendees on both presentations. You may ask your question verbally by raising your hand, by using the raise hand tool that you see at the top of your screen. I will enable your microphone, call on you, and then you will be able to unmute yourself. Once you have asked your question, please, we ask you if you can mute yourself back. That'd be great. We appreciate it. Or you can, if you're on your phone, you can press *5 to raise your hand. And when you're called upon, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. And once again, once you have answered your question or comment, please press *6 again to mute yourself. And once again, we will not be taking any questions via chat tonight. And with that, we'll get started with taking the questions or comments. Okay.
We can go to Diana first.
Yeah. All right, Diana, how about allowed your mic? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
You'll just need to hit the mic button at the top of your screen to unmute.
Let's see.
We try it one more
Can you
time.
hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, thank you all for having this event. I appreciate it. You may remember me from last year. I attended the meeting last year and actually had sent Ryan an email. I think I also sent Hannah an email, but I actually did not receive an answer to my questions in my October 2024 email, and thought perhaps I could ask some of them now with regards to different issues of the paving. One of them that is of concern is that I live on Tucker Avenue in McLean, and it hasn't been paved for like 25 years or so. And it is currently having a stormwater project. I brought this up last year, and it is supposed to be finished at the end of the year. So I'd like to know if we are on the paving list for next year, since you work in advance.
Huda or Kim, would you like to speak to that particular question?
Yes, sure. So I'm aware of Tucker Avenue being delayed just to accommodate the storm drainage project that I believe it's a county project. We can check. I mean, the pavement list for next year has not came out yet. Typically that happens maybe by end of May or early summer of this year, but we can follow up with you on that. And Hannah, if you have Diana's email address, maybe we will forward that information to you and you can send it
Okay,
over.
yeah, I can search my inbox, but and you said that Tucker Avenue is a county project, Huda.
The storm drainage project that Diana just mentioned is a county project, and that's the reason why it's been delayed for many years, because the project has been ongoing for several years now, I believe. But it is going to get paved as soon as the county project is completed.
As soon as, there won't be any like waiting a year or anything, it will happen right away?
I would think that's the plan. It depends on when the county, like if the county project ended in November, of course, it's not going to get paved until the next season, which starts in March or April.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean,
That makes sense.
Yeah, yes.
Could I ask you, are you able also to send me this presentation to my email as well? The presentation that you gave tonight, the slides for it?
Sure, I can send it to Hannah, or if Yeah, if I can get your email address, I'll send it to you, of course.
Okay. And then I also wanted to ask a few questions to, I think it would be to Ryan. Yes, I was wondering where we are on with Birch Road getting the white crosswalk marking done there on Birch Road.
What was the cross street of that one again? Birch
It-
and
It's Birch and Kirby Road.
and
Yeah.
this is the one that has the sidewalk project that's
Yes, that's
scheduled
correct.
for.
Right around the
Yeah, that's
corner
right.
from Tucker too. Yeah. Where are we at with that?
I would have to check our TDD, our Transportation Design Division status report to see what the status of that exact project is. But I could get you in touch with a project manager. We would not be able to stripe a crosswalk until after that sidewalk is complete, though.
Would Prabha be able to tell me where we are on the scoping of that sidewalk?
The scoping is still not done. It's not in the TDD yet. I still haven't heard anything back from the consultant report, Diana. So,
Do we know if we're 50% or 75%? Because, you know, I'm not able to get any replies from FCDOT, from whether it's Michael Garino or Eric Tiedelman, who I know is in charge of scoping for the project.
Yeah.
I'm not able to get any responses. So, and I know that Jimmy Bierman, Supervisor Bierman, had asked you at one of the meetings if you could touch base with that FCDOT.
Well, I've touched base. I haven't received any timeline up. I know it's there with the consultant, but that's a little off topic off of this. So I'll check in again, Diana. And as soon as I get some information from them, I can relay it to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's just, you know, the scoping, obviously, and the moving along of the sidewalk, the fact that it's a narrow 2-lane and has people are walking beside cars. It's so dangerous. The liabilities are so great there that I would think that we'd want to really try to find out how they're moving along with the scoping, because it's been almost, I think, a year and a half now that the monies was approved for the scoping. And yet there is no response as to where we're at with the scoping of it. And everything depends on that. You know, this intersection of Kirby Road and Birch Road has many accidents on it. There have been hit and runs, 3 last year at the intersection of Kirby and Birch Road. So it really does need some crosswalks put there at that intersection. The whole intersection needs to be considered and looked at. And I know at least one picture of an accident in that area. And everything, the safety of everything really depends on the sidewalk getting started, because the white crosswalk marking supposedly can't happen until the ADA compliant curb ramp is put in. So, all of that is really important to find out how the scoping is coming along. I hope it's not 2 years before it makes the TDD design, or that TDD design list.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sorry we're not able to give you a more specific answer on that one. That project is under a different section that we're in the active transportation section, and the capital project section works on those specific projects. So that's why we're not able to provide you with more specifics, but happy to help connect you with someone in that section if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be good, Hannah. I appreciate that. Thank you for answering.
Of course. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being an advocate for the community.
Thank you.
And I'm going to move to Ryan next. Ryan, I'm going to allow your mic, and you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can go ahead and answer your question.
We're not able to hear you if you're speaking. You'll need to just unmute yourself.
let's see, I can try to
Should be the microphone button at the top of the
at the
screen.
top of the screen. I'm gonna disable the mic again and allow it to enable that one. Yeah.
Let me try disabling it and then re-enabling the microphone.
Yeah.
Try unmuting now. Still doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, we'll go ahead and move on. But feel free to keep trying to unmute. But if you're not able to work it out, you can feel free to send us an email or a comment by phone, and that information is up here.
Let's see. Let's try this.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I
Yes,
can hear you now.
we can hear you now. Okay, great.
Oh, great. Hi, I'm Ryan Melkus. I live on Loran Road across from Forestville Elementary School, off of Leesburg Pike, kind of by Reston Parkway. And I wanted to just check. I thought I saw it on the map, but I didn't know if we were selected for repaving or not. Our street is heavily trafficked with Forestville Elementary, with people parking and running across the street. And it hasn't been repaved in a very, very long time, and it's starting to crumble. And it's in pretty bad shape. And I just want to see, is it on the map for repaving?
Who did you still have the map up?
I thought I saw it in the top corner, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I can pull the map. What's the name of your street?
Loran Road and Otterbeck in Great Falls off of Leesburg Pike.
I believe I remember seeing Utterback store on there.
And the other question I had is, are they going to be connecting the sidewalk on Otterbeck to the school to put a crosswalk in, going across from Loran to Forestville Elementary when they do the repaving?
No. So the repaving program, the scopes are just limited to striping improvements that are on the pavement. So anything like a sidewalk project would be a completely separate project.
Okay.
And we wouldn't be able to add a crosswalk until like a sidewalk project was completed and a ramp was in place.
Yeah, we have
So,
a on one side, but not the other. That's where the
so Ryan, Outer Baxter Road is what you mentioned in Great Falls?
yes.
Yeah, I don't see any of the roads in this neighborhood up for paving this year. Nothing north of Georgetown Pike.
It's not north of, it's to the east of Georgetown Pike. Or south of Georgetown Pike.
Oh, south. Yeah.
It
Okay.
connects Leesburg to Georgetown Pike. By
Got you.
Forestville
Yeah, that's
Elementary.
actually, yes, it is up for repaving this year.
Great. And is the side street on Loran, is that also part of that?
Let me see.
Right across from the
Yeah,
school.
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah, and I have it
Yeah.
up. I do see a portion of Loran being
Yeah.
planned for
Yeah.
paving. Mhm.
Great. That makes my night. I'm glad I attended.
Glad we could help.
Win.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ryan, for your question. And I'm going to go back to Deanna. Okay, Deanna, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I was just wondering if Hannah could explain again when I was speaking about the issues that we're having. You had said it's part of capital projects and your active transportation. Could you explain the differences between the two and Active transportation, I think, doesn't it have everything to do with sidewalks, white crosswalk markings, and ADA compliant curb ramps?
Yeah, so in the active transportation section, our work is more programmatic. So we work on the repaving program. We do work on projects such as the $100 million funding for active transportation projects and that prioritization. But once we actually have a specific project, a specific improvement, such as a refuge island project or a crosswalk project, those are managed by our capital projects section, and they're assigned a project manager, and they're the ones who actually do the work of implementing that project.
But in our case, in this area, it's not yet about being a capital project, right? Because it's part of the 100 million, and part of that 100 million, what's been funded towards the sidewalk, which will lead hopefully to the ADA compliant curb ramp and the white crosswalk marking, is the 800,000 that's been given so far for the sidewalk, which is basically the study. So all of that is part of active transportation right now. Is that correct? You guys make sure it's on that list of projects, all of those things I mentioned, right?
Yeah, so we were involved in our section was involved in identifying that project and the selection of it in the prioritization process. It's already been funded, so it's on that list. It's just kind of in a queue right now because we have a lot of projects. But that's.
You keep an eye on the queue at all? Do you know its status, where it's at, like as far as the scoping and how it's moving along with the consultant?
I really don't, because it's just I'm not involved in it. I don't. Our Ryan Paula is in the same boat.
Yeah,
I believe.
I mean, I definitely think it definitely depends on different factors for sure as the project moves along. But like Hannah said, once a project is picked, and definitely once it definitely is funded, that goes on to the capital project side, and they're kind of the project manager of it, and they begin to work with the engineers and things like that to get that implemented. So it's kind of, once it's out of our hands of like analyzing it, studying it, understanding it, it gets sent to that section so they can start really implementing and working on that, if that makes sense.
It has to be fully funded for that to happen, for it to go through to a project engineer, correct?
I wouldn't say, yeah, I would say yes. In that sense, yeah. It has to have some kind of funding to where it needs to like keep going in the projects. I don't think it has to be all the time fully funded. I think it also just depends on what that project and the need of that project and how that looks. And definitely if it's something that's on a priority list for like, a supervisor would have you, that's kind of how it moves along. So it's so many different factors of how projects move along within the actual scope of, our department, if that makes sense.
So then you would know, though, if this particular project is with capital projects, because my understanding is it's not with capital projects. I mean, maybe Prabha would know the answer to that.
Within the preliminary engineering is within capital projects.
Projects, yes.
In the long list of projects they needed to do pre-scoping on, and it was sent to the consultant. There's unfortunately quite the backlog that we've been trying to find ways to see what we can do to move those along faster, but it is already in capital projects at that partial funding part. The remaining 1.5 million has not been funded yet, but the 800,000 has. So it is in capital projects. And like I said, this isn't the only one. There's several that we're trying to get status updates on, but they're still in that process. So.
Oh, that's most helpful. Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Of course. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Prabha.
Thank you.
All right. Last call for any questions before we wrap up. Not seeing anything.
Yeah, me either. Okay, so as a reminder, feedback can be submitted up to 2 weeks after the presentation. So that date is April 21st, as you see on the screen. And of course, we have ways you can give feedback for Sully District. You can go to https://publicinput.com/J88716, or you can do phone comments at 703-890-5898. And then we also have the project code, which is 11363. Or you can mail us a letter with attention at Zachary Desjardins at 4050 Legato Road, Suite 400, 22033, Fairfax, Virginia. And I do see, do we have time to take one more comment, Hannah?
Yes, if it just really quickly.
Okay. I see that. I have her name up, so I'm going to unmute your mic, Deanna, and then you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Hannah. Just a quick one, and it's for you. I know you had mentioned earlier there was a reason why there's no restriping for Dranesville for Dranesville District. Could you just restate that again for me?
Yeah, so we looked for basically any opportunity to add new crosswalks or bike lanes. The reason we have fewer crosswalks is just based on the current VDOT guidelines. They require an up-to-date ADA ramp to be in place on both approaches to the crosswalk. And if Huda or Kim want to add anything to that, you're welcome to. I saw that you unmuted, Huda.
Yeah, so it's basically, it's a federal requirements that now we have to comply with, that existing ADA ramp has to be what they call it a grade A, which means just up to current standard before we can add new crosswalks at these locations.
So there are places that could use restriping, but there are no ADA compliant curb ramps there, so you're not able to do anything for Dranesville for the crosswalks, but there are places that could have it done if those ramps were there.
I'm not sure. Did you have anything proposed for Dranesville, Hannah?
Huda, I guess I just,
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Hannah.
Kim. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
I would just add that it is, there's a lot of factors on looking for an opportunity to put a new crosswalk in. One of them is the ADA ramps. There's, I think there's 5 different criteria that we look at as well. And it has to align with where we're repaving, frankly. So unfortunately, this cycle, there wasn't any of those aligned where we were repaving and they had the ramps and the other criteria met as well. So we did work with FCDOT in trying to look for opportunities, and we're hopeful that, next cycle will be a little more successful in finding some things. But unfortunately, this time things didn't align.
Okay. And Kim, you're with VDOT, yeah?
I am, yes.
Okay. And thank you for explaining all that. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Me too.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you for joining. I think we can go ahead and wrap up now. As a reminder, please submit any feedback by April 21st, and have a great evening.